Hi there. Welcome to my talk with the title The Impact of Blockchain on Society. This talk is about that impact. Is there more to blockchain than just speculation? Is it possible to cut out the government seen as a middleman? Many technology watchers use the word disruptive when they talk about blockchain technology. But is there any disruptive power of blockchain and what is it? The result of this talk is the result. This talk is the result of a thought experiment. There are no scientific claims, and it's an attempt to predict why and when this technology could make an impact on society. Okay, let's start with the talk. We're going to cover a few topics. First of all, we're going to talk about the promises of blockchain and the relation between technology and society in general. And we're going to talk about a few management principles in society, which result in a short talk on social self-organization and a prediction on why and in what situation blockchain technology could be of use for society. Let's start with the promises of blockchain, which is actually a very funny topic because many awkward predictions are made, especially when some new coin is introduced. Then people cannot stop shouting how wonderful this new crypto coin will be. And then these words as like disruptive and revolutionary are part of these promises. But I think the promises of blockchain, they fall in two categories. First of all, there are promises made to pump up the price of crypto coins. And it's clear that the reason why people make these promises is it's for speculation. They want to get rich, and they want to get rich quickly. So very easily, coins are described as the best coin to invest in, and so on. But these are fairly simple promises. They have a clear underlying objective, and so you can clearly see why these promises are made. But then there's a category of promises where people say, okay, blockchain is a technology that will set us free or will give us a better society. And these promises, you see here Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, and he talks about using blockchain as a key technology for the transformation of society, from a competitive society in a cooperative society. Well, that almost sounds religious when you listen to it, and it's interesting to see why these people have the idea that there is something very valuable in blockchain technology that it could and that could be of use in changing society. Well, the last bullet of this slide is, of course, are these promises then realistic? There's a large number of people think that, well, these promises are actually unrealistic, but that doesn't make them less interesting. Okay. First of all, these pump up the price promises. Do they work? Oh, yes, they work. But they will probably work for just a limited time. And they have an unpredictable result, resulting in up and down effect of the prices of these crypto coins. So it's visualized here with these girls on the trampoline. The price goes up and the price goes down. But as I mentioned before, it's a fairly harmless way of prediction. We are actually more interested in the question in this presentation: will blockchain technology have an impact on society, on the way that we organize society? So promises that are made with regard to a better society or a set-us-free society. They are the topic of this talk. Well, first let us look at what the modern equivalent of the Delphi's oracles say about this technology, and they have something that that is called the Gartner hype cycle, and it tries to predict what this society, or what not the society, what the technology will, the adoption of the technology in society, how that will take place. And when you look at these hype cycle diagrams, they are made every year for different technologies, so also for blockchain. You see that the blockchain is described in a number of categories like zero knowledge proof, decentralized web, smart contracts, tokenization. And for each topic, Gartner predicts or states how far in the hype cycle this topic is evolved. So you can see that decentralized exchanges, they think that it will take place in 2 to 5 years, and it's in the early stage. It's an innovation trigger. With something like cryptocurrencies, which also have a very short time span, they are already in the slope of enlightenment. Well, actually, for this topic, these hype cycles are not very useful. They state, okay, decentralized blockchain applications are thriving, crypto coins are doing great. I think that's the meaning of what they say with this statement. And the second thing that they say, okay, however, most users are stuck trying to align use cases for this technology. And I think that means something like there are no blockchain related applications other than crypto coins. Okay, that's actually a bit disappointing. When you look in history, you see other technologies like this one, the steam engine, steam technology. And this technology changed the world. Not everyone benefited from that change. On the contrary, large groups were actually victims of this technology. So, so you should remind yourself that change or the impact of technology is quantum-like. It can be both positive and negative at the same time. But when this technology was invented long ago, I don't think that Mr. Watt had a clear idea of what the impact of this technology would be on the world. It was more that this technology was there and an application in the industry appeared, and so that was pretty cool, and people start working in it. Now, when you look at blockchain technology, how would you describe that? We try to make a combination. We try to make a relation between blockchain technology and the Steam technology. But when you would look at blockchain, you say, okay, it's a combination of distributed database technology and cryptography. And it's useful when multiple agents, people, persons, unknown to each other, want to exchange data, but there is a danger in that situation of cheating. And in order to reduce the danger of cheating, in order to reduce the cheating behavior of people in that network, the network has an algorithmically enforced trust. The network gives the agents trust. Cool, very cool. We call these our rules of engagement. I'm a fan of calling them rules of engagement. And they try to explain when you should use blockchain technology. But when you describe the blockchain technology for people in this way that I did now, it's too complex for people to understand where the application field is. So the gap between the technology and the application is too big for most. When you go back to the promises, you could say, okay, blockchain technology could be very disruptive, as people state in their promises, but it's not actually clear for what kind of revolution then this technology would be useful. With the steam engine case, you could say, okay, the steam engine led to the first industrial revolution. So could we also state then, when we know that steam engine led to this industrial revolution, is there some equivalent on the blockchain side? We could say, okay, blockchain technology will lead to some kind of revolution. And this is a very ambitious analogy because you know that steam engine wasn't invented for this industrial revolution. In hindsight, it led to the industrial revolution, but it wasn't the objective of the inventor, I think. So it's very hard to predict, making this analogy to say, okay, blockchain technology will be very useful for that area. Okay. Now let's talk about organizational structures in society. And we do so because we have the feeling that using this blockchain technology will be beneficial for optimizing organizational processes within society. Well, with regard to organizational structure in society, there are two opposing approaches. On the left-hand side, you see the linear structure. And it's an example of a top-down, predefined approach towards society. On the right-hand side, you see the non-linear or more graph-like structure. It's a bottom-up, emergent structure. On the left-hand side, it's centralized. On the right-hand side is distributed. On the left-hand side, the coordination principle is centralized. And on the right-hand side, there is no centralized coordination principle. It's unregulated. On the left-hand side, there is no social self-organization. And on the right-hand side, there is the possibility of social self-organization. Everybody is familiar with these kind of structures. Okay, you can see the government on the left-hand side, which is a top-down structure. And you see social structures that people every day engage when they are at home or when they're doing sports or when they are part of a local community, which is on the right-hand side. So it's a kind of opposing things like regulation versus unregulation. Well, how does that central coordination work? Well, the basic idea of this centralized situation is that the output of the system is optimized by having central coordination. And that means that the output of every individual in that system is controlled, monitored, or observed by some central authority. Typically, you could say, okay, you have a boss and it gives you a command, and then you have to do that. And when you have executed the command, you come back to your boss and say, I did it. And then your boss controls whether it's true what you did. And the boss does so for every employee in his or her team. But in order to work, to let this system, this centralized coordination principle work, it should actually be inescapable. You should not be able to say, okay, well, I will not do what you say. Maybe at best in this situation, you could say, okay, maybe this isn't the right command, boss. Maybe you should give me a different command. But the idea is, the boss is the central authority and controls what's happening here. And the idea is that when you have this central coordination in place, then you can more or less predict what the outcome of the complete system will be. There's also a cost of central coordination. It's very costly because you need to control everything that's there. So in order to make this system work, you have a kind of overhead costs, the coordination costs. But not everything is centralized. Things like government, healthcare, education, no, they are regulated, linear and centralized. But we know that there's also a unregulated, non-linear and decentralized part in our society. Some countries try to be completely centralized, but I think you can safely say that in Western communities, in Western countries, there is unregulated space left. I don't know whether this unregulated space grows or decreases, but it's there. It's at home, in sports, in local communities, in online communities. And why is it there? It's probably there because it is too difficult to organize that unregulated space, or too costly to organize that unregulated space. And in that unregulated space, something interesting happened because people want to be organized in that unregulated space also. So a local community is not a disorganized community. It's organized, it's well organized, but it has it's self-organized. So there's not some central authority that says, okay, you have to organize yourself in such a way. You can decide yourself how you would do that. And in this unregulated space, people are looking for tools that will help them to organize themselves bottom up or spontaneous. Interesting in this slide is that in both spaces, the regulated one and the unregulated one, information technology is used to maximize the space. So the IT is used to, information technology is used in the regulated space to increase the span of control. Imagine centralized dictatorship-like societies. They want to use IT to control every aspect of the society. And on the other hand, in the unregulated space, also technology is used to organize themselves. And blockchain is a very good technology candidate for organizing yourself in this unregulated space. The distributed nature of blockchain matches with the idea behind social self-organization. And it allows people to have an instant spontaneous coordination between the members of the community that they are part of. So the prediction is that blockchain will appear or is already appearing at the outskirts of regulated society. And successful use cases will therefore be in local and online communities that are at first below the radar of the regulated society. Centralized blockchain projects will, and there are centralized blockchain projects. Think of stable coin projects of governments or central banks. They will not be aimed at social self-organization, but they will have the objective to increase the control of the regulated space. And that is a little bit awkward. So the statement of this slide is that, okay, blockchain, a good candidate for the unregulated space, but you will also see centralized blockchain projects that will have the objective to increase the control in the regulated space. That's not necessarily bad, but it's a very strange contradiction or situation. Okay, this is the last slide of the presentation. Because we are talking about social self-organization, but one of the things that is also a topic in this meetup is that we're going to talk about energieknip, And that is I think it's an example of social self-organization. The idea behind the Energieknip is that you have a blockchain-based system for interaction between citizens and the local government. And the coordination task within the people that use the Energieknip is that there needs to be a distribution of vouchers for energy saving measures. And that's actually in the unregulated space because the central governmental authority is not organizing the process of the distribution of these vouchers. So for the central governmental authority, this is all below the radar. And the Energieknip application, the blockchain application called the Energieknip, is, I think, a beautiful example of spontaneous organization. The app is created in a very short time with a limited amount of people and a limited budget, with the aim of, okay, how could we organize ourselves in such a way that we can efficiently organize the distribution of these energy saving measure vouchers. Okay, thank you. This was my presentation.